Oh my god. Oh. Vikings, what did you do last Saturday in preseason week 3? Or should I say 2, obviously. Why did you lose at home to the Titans? Why? 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 Let's just hope we beat the Cardinals this Saturday for preseason week 4, 3 obviously I should say. Alright. Hope we beat the Cardinals. Let's hope so because it's almost 12 in the morning in my area. Almost August 26th. Alright. Here, player stats as usual for the Vikings. Passing. Nick Mullins had 13 carrying and 23 attempts and 151 yards. Darren Hall had 4 carrying and 7 yards and 49 yards. Alright, rushing. Ty Chandler had 11 carrying and 24 yards. Aaron Dykes had 3 carrying and 19 yards. Wayne McBride had 6 carrying and 18 yards. Jaron Hall had 2 carrying and 14 yards. Nick Mullins had 1 carrying and 9 yards. Abraham Smith had 2 carrying and 7 yards. Alright, receiving for the Vikings. Nick Muse had 3 receiving and 46 yards. Ben Sims had 2 receiving and 38 yards. Thayer Thomas had 3 receiving and 32 yards. Colin Thompson had 2 receiving and 31 yards. Brandon Powell had 1 receiving and 11 yards. Wayne McBride had 1 receiving and 11 yards. Aaron Dykes had 1 receiving and 11 yards. Christian Jackson had 2 receiving and 10 yards. And Jalen Reagor had 2 receiving and 10 yards. Alright. Yeah. Defense for the Vikings. Lewis Sine had 6 tackles and 1 assist. Jay Ward had 3 tackles and 2 assists. Troy Reader had 3 tackles and 2 assists. Sheldon Day had 3 tackles. TJ Smith had 2 tackles and 2 assists. Ross Blacklock had 2 tackles and 2 assists. Theo Jackson had 2 tackles and 1 assist. Andrew Booth Jr. had 2 tackles and 1 assist. Adam Bufeland had 2 tackles and 1 assist. And Calvin Avery had 2 tackles and 1 assist. Joe John Williams had 2 tackles and 1 assist. Troy Dye had 2 tackles and 1 interception. Craig Allen had 2 tackles. And Andre Carter had 1 tackle and 2 assists. Jalen Williams had 1 tackle and 1 assist. Delon Barnes had 1 tackle and 1 assist. Lucy Villain had 1 tackle and 1 assist. Zizi Omatu had 4 assists. Junior Aho had 2 assists. Ivan Pace Jr. had 2 assists. Kick returns for the Vikings. Aaron Dykes had 5 returns and 112 yards. Punt returns for the Vikings. Brandon Powell had 2 returns and 16 yards. Kicking. Greg Joseph had made 3 field goals for the Vikings. And the punting for the Vikings, Ryan Wright had 288 yards. Now for the Titans. Here's the player stats for the Titans. Malik Willis had 10 carrying and 17 yards and 85 yards. The rushing for the Titans, Julius Chestnut had 13 carrying and 98 yards. Malik Willis had 11 carrying and 91 yards. Tyjae Spears had 7 carrying and 57 yards. Jaquez Patrick had 8 carrying and 29 yards. Mason Kinsley had 1 carrying and 6 yards. Receiving for the Titans, Mason Kinsley had 4 receiving and 37 yards. Chris Jordan Okonwu had 1 receiving and 19 yards. Macy McMath had 1 receiving and 16 yards. David Holmes had 1 receiving and 5 yards. Josh Weil had 1 receiving and 4 yards. Tyjae Spears had 1 receiving and 3 yards. Julius Chestnut had 1 receiving and 1 yards. Defense for the Titans. Tyreek Jones had 5 tackles and 2 assists. Eric Garror had 4 tackles. Ben Neiman had 3 tackles and 2 assists. Armani Marsh had 3 tackles and 3 assists. Michael Brown had 3 tackles and 2 assists. Caleb Murphy had 3 tackles and 1 assist. Chance Campbell had 3 tackles and 1 assist. Ryan Carter had 2 tackles and 2 assists. Otis Reese had 1 tackle and 2 assists. Kyle Pecco had 1 tackle and 3 assists. Anthony Kendall had 1 tackle and 1 assist. Jack Gibbons had 1 tackle and 1 assist. Trey Avery had 1 tackle. Shad Weaver had 1 tackle. Michael Drumford had 1 tackle. Pierre Tart had 1 tackle. Matthew Jackson had 2 assists. Thomas Rush had 1 assist. Alonzo Davis had 1 assist. Sam Okinu had 1 assist. TK McGlendon had 1 assist. Kick returns for the Titans. Kyrus Jackson had 2 returns and 48 yards. Punt returns for the Titans. Eric Garror had 2 returns and 22 yards. Kyrus Jackson had 1 return and 8 yards. Kyle Phillips had 1 tackle and 2 assists. Trey Avery had 1 return. Kyle Phillips had 1 return and 2 assists. Kyrus Jackson had 1 return and 8 yards. I meant to say Kyrus Jackson had 1 return and 8 yards. Kyle Phillips had 1 return and 2 yards. Trey Avery only had 1 return. That's what I was going to say. Kicking for the Titans, Trey Wolf had made 1 field goal. And Caleb Shodek only had 1 point. Punting for the Titans, Ryan Stonehouse had 206 yards. Alright. Team stats for the Vikings. Vikings had 262 total yards in that game. The Titans only had 352 total yards in that game. The Vikings only had 171 passing yards in that game. And the Titans only had 71 passing yards in that game. And the Vikings only had 91 rushing yards in that game. And the Titans only had 281 rushing yards in that game. And the yards per play, Vikings had 4.5 yards per play. The Titans only had 6.0 yards per play. The Titans only had 19 first downs, and the Vikings only had 15 first downs. The Vikings only made 3 first downs. Vikings only made 3 third downs. The Titans only made 3 third downs. The 4th down efficiency, Vikings only missed 1 on 4th down. And the Vikings only had 58 total plays, and Titans had 59 total plays. The Titans only lost 1 fumble. And the Titans threw for 1 interception. Vikings intercepted that football. So yep, let's hope we beat the Cardinals on Saturday, which it's now Saturday in my area. So let's hope they beat them today in the final week of the preseason.